Hi everyone, glad to see you here. I won't add any images of the characters in this story so as not to influence your imagination. I want you to explore your creativity and have a new experience. I welcome feedback. Let's get to the story. Hi everyone, welcome to the channel, where we tell stories that inspire and transform. Today, you will learn about the exciting journey of Gabriel, a man who faces the ghosts of his past to rebuild his relationship with his children and the woman he still loves. It's a story of forgiveness, strength, and the power of new beginnings. If you love touching stories that make you reflect, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell so you don't miss anything, and let us know in the comments the city you are watching from. Let's spread these stories together. Now, without further ado, let's dive into this narrative that will touch your soul. Gabriel Noguera was the kind of man who commanded respect as soon as he entered any place. At 42, he maintained a flawless appearance. Tall and athletic, he wore a dark gray suit that seemed to have been tailored directly to his body. His dark brown hair, already beginning to show subtle silver strands at the sides, was perfectly styled. A well-groomed beard and a luxury watch on his wrist completed the picture of the successful businessman. But that day, something felt different. The sparkle that usually lit up his green eyes had vanished. He walked through the crowded shopping mall, cell phone in hand, sliding his fingers across the screen without really reading the emails that popped up. The buzz of the people around him felt muffled, as if he were in a bubble. Inside, Gabriel carried a fatigue that didn't come from sleepless nights or endless meetings. It was a fatigue of the soul. As he headed to a cafe where he had scheduled a meeting with an investor, something caught his attention in the window of a children's bookstore. Gabriel stopped abruptly, causing a slight collision with a hurried couple passing by. "Hey, watch it!" the man complained, but Gabriel didn't even hear him. Inside the bookstore was Luna. He didn't need a second glance to recognize her, even after so many years. His heart, which had seemed to hibernate in a monotonous rhythm for a decade, leaped as if it had just awakened. Luna was the kind of woman who drew attention effortlessly. Her light brown hair was cut to a medium length, with soft waves framing her face. She wore a simple white blouse and dark jeans, but there was something in her posture that radiated strength and independence. While she chatted with two boys who appeared to be her sons, Gabriel noticed something that made his chest tighten. The boys, they had something of him. The oldest, Raphael, looked to be about 9 years old. He was slender, with the same dark brown hair as Gabriel, slightly tousled, and curious eyes that absorbed everything around him. The youngest, Matthias, was probably about 7. He had more delicate features and a shy demeanor, partially hiding behind Luna as she spoke. Gabriel felt a lump in his throat. He didn't need a DNA test to know. Those boys were his sons. The resemblance was undeniable, but there was something deeper, something he couldn't explain, a connection that went beyond appearance. His mind drifted back to the past, to the moment he decided to leave Luna. At the time, he believed he was making the right choice. Gabriel was ambitious and determined to reach the top. He thought there would be time for love later, that he would build a comfortable life for both of them. But as the years passed, he realized that the emptiness he felt was not filled by achievements or money. Still standing in front of the bookstore, Gabriel was engaged in an internal battle. He wanted to approach her, wanted to talk to Luna and meet the boys. But a voice in his head whispered, "What if she hates you? What if you only make things worse?" Suddenly, someone tapped him on the shoulder. Gabriel turned quickly, finding himself face to face with Diego, an old friend he hadn't seen in a while. Diego was shorter, with graying hair and a belly that showed the years of indulgence in beer and barbecues. He had always been straightforward, sometimes even inconvenient, but he was the type of person who said what needed to be said. "Gabriel? Man, what are you doing just standing here, staring like that?" Diego asked, frowning. He followed Gabriel's gaze to the bookstore and froze. "I can't believe it. It's Luna, isn't it?" Gabriel didn't respond immediately. He just nodded slightly. "And the kids, Diego continued, watching the boys. "They're yours, aren't they?" Gabriel ran his hand through his hair, something he did when he was nervous. I think so. I mean, it's obvious, right?" "Look at them." Diego let out a low laugh, but his tone turned serious. "So what are you going to do? Stand there like a statue or go talk to her?" "I don't know, Diego. I don't even know where to start." What if she doesn't want to see me? What if I just complicate her life even more? Diego sighed, crossing his arms. I'll tell you one thing, Gabriel. You made your choice 10 years ago. You chose work, success, and left her behind. But now you have a chance to try to fix that. And I guarantee, the regret of doing nothing will be much worse than anything she might say to you. Gabriel swallowed hard. He knew Diego was right, but that didn't make the situation any easier. After a few seconds of hesitation, he took a step forward. Each movement felt like a struggle against the ground, as if his body were resisting. As he entered the bookstore, the smell of new paper and coffee enveloped him. The sound of children's laughter mingled with the chatter of parents talking. And there was Luna, leaning down to grab a book from a shelf. When she stood up and turned toward him, their eyes met. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Gabriel saw a mix of surprise, disbelief, and something he couldn't quite identify in her eyes. But soon Luna's expression changed, hardening like a wall she instinctively erected. Gabriel, she said, her voice laden with disbelief and a tone of coldness he had never heard before. Gabriel tried to speak, but his throat felt closed. He felt the weight of his mistakes as if a giant wave was about to swallow him. What are you doing here? Luna asked again, now more firmly. He started, but his voice faltered. He took a deep breath, gathering courage. I was passing by and I saw you. I saw you both. Luna crossed her arms, protecting herself. So you decided to show up after all this time. Do you have any idea what we've been through? Gabriel lowered his eyes for a moment, unable to meet her gaze. He knew he deserved every word. I know I have no right to ask for anything. But, please, Luna, I just want a chance to explain. Before she could respond, Raphael interrupted. Mommy, who is this man? The silence that followed was suffocating. Matthias looked at Gabriel with curiosity but also suspicion, while Raphael awaited an answer from his mother. Luna looked at her children, and for a moment, her mask of strength seemed to waver. The air between Gabriel and Luna felt charged. The words hung at the edge of what needed to be said and what they didn't know how to express. Raphael was still waiting for an answer, his eyes fixed on his mother, while Matthias, more withdrawn, continued to peek from behind her leg. Mommy? Who is he? Raphael insisted, furrowing his brows in a way so similar to Gabriel that it made Luna look away. She took a deep breath, as if trying to draw strength from a place Gabriel couldn't reach. Then she knelt down to be at eye level with her children, a posture she adopted when she wanted to convey security. Raphael, Matthias, she said, her voice now lower and more controlled. This is Gabriel. The pause was longer than seemed necessary. He is your father. The words were said with effort, as if each one was a small thorn tearing at something inside her. The boys reacted in different ways. Raphael took a step back, as if he had been shocked. His eyes narrowed, alternating between Luna and Gabriel as he processed the information. Matthias, on the other hand, hid even more, his small hand clutching the hem of his mother's shirt. Father? Raphael repeated, his voice full of disbelief. But you said that. Luna put her hand on his shoulder. I know what I said, Raphael. But now he is here. Gabriel felt the weight of all the unasked questions in Raphael's eyes. He knew there was no simple answer. How do you explain years of absence to a boy who is still learning what the world is? Raphael, Matthias, he began, bending down in an attempt to get closer to them. I know this must be confusing, and I know I haven't been here before. Raphael crossed his arms and stepped to the side, out of Gabriel's reach. His closed expression was that of someone who, despite being young, already knew how to protect himself. Why weren't you here? He asked, his voice laden with challenge. That question, so simple and direct, cut Gabriel like a blade. He knew there wasn't enough of an answer, but he tried anyway. I made a mistake. I thought I was doing the right thing, working to build something, but... He paused, looking at Luna, who watched the scene with her lips pressed tight. I was wrong. There's no excuse. Raphael, I just want a chance to be here now. And what makes us believe you won't leave again? Raphael retorted, without hesitation. Gabriel blinked, surprised by the maturity in the boy's voice. He looked at Luna as if asking for help, but she just stared at him, waiting to see how he would handle this. I can't change what happened, Gabriel said, trying to keep his voice steady, but I can show you that I'm here to stay. Not with words, but with actions. Matthias tugged at Luna's hand, speaking softly. Mommy, is he going to live with us now? Luna looked at him, her expression softening for a moment, but then hardening again. No, Matthias. He's not going to live with us. The boy's eyes widened, filled with doubt, but he didn't insist. He just tightened his grip on her shirt. The awkwardness grew. Luna finally stood up, her movements deliberate as if she were preparing to end the interaction. We're done here. Come on, boys. Wait. Gabriel stepped forward, hands raised in a gesture almost of pleading. Luna, please. I don't want to cause confusion. Just let me talk to you. She looked at him, chin raised. Her brown eyes were intense, shining with a mix of anger and frustration. You've already spoken, Gabriel. For 10 years, you've been absent. And now you show up just like that, expecting what? That I'll simply open the door and say, come in, let's pretend nothing happened. Her voice rose slightly, drawing the attention of some people around. Gabriel felt the curious stares, but he didn't care. I don't expect it to be easy, he replied, his voice firmer now. I know what I did, and I know how much I was wrong. But please, Luna, give me a chance to try. For them. He discreetly pointed to the boys. Matthias was staring intently at his shoelaces, and Raphael, though still seeming suspicious, wore a more contemplative expression. Luna seemed to be battling internally. Her rigid posture and the furrow in her brow clearly showed that she didn't trust him. But there was something more, a spark of doubt that Gabriel noticed. Meet me at the cafe in an hour, she finally said, without looking directly at him. Alone. Gabriel nodded, feeling an immediate sense of relief. Thank you. Luna held the boy's hands and left without looking back. Gabriel stood still in the bookstore for a few more seconds, feeling the energy of the moment dissipate. He knew this conversation would be just the beginning. Gabriel sat on one of the wooden benches in the mall, watching people pass by as he tried to gather courage for what was to come. He glanced at his wristwatch every few minutes, but time seemed to be uncooperative. An hour, 60 minutes to reflect, rehearse, and inevitably torture himself over the choices that led him to this point. What if she kicks me out for good? What if I don't know what to say? These questions echoed in his mind. The answer was always the same. You deserve this. With 10 minutes left until the appointed time, Gabriel got up and headed to the cafe. It was a small, cozy place with dark wooden tables and hanging lamps that cast a warm, comforting glow in the room. The aroma of fresh coffee and cheese bread filled the air, but Gabriel barely noticed. He chose a table in the corner where he had a clear view of the entrance. He tried to appear relaxed, but his body was stiff. His suit, impeccable in the morning, now felt too tight. He drummed his fingers on the table, a nervous gesture he had never used in his business meetings. 5 minutes later, Luna walked in. Her presence was so striking that Gabriel had to take a deep breath to maintain his composure. She wore the same jeans and white blouse, but there was something different about her gait, a touch of determination that seemed to say, I will not give in. Luna met his gaze and walked over to the table. Gabriel stood up, but she gestured for him to sit. You don't need formalities, Gabriel, she said, her voice calm but firm. She settled into the chair across from him and crossed her arms on the table. Her expression was a mix of weariness and vigilance, like someone who had seen too much and had no patience for pleasantries. So, what do you want? She asked directly, without any softness in her tone. Gabriel opened his mouth but realized there was no simple answer. He took a breath and began, I want to do the right thing, for you, for them. Luna tilted her head, her gaze sharp, almost cutting. Do the right thing. Now. After 10 years? She laughed, but there was no humor in her laugh. Gabriel, I've carried the weight of raising 2 kids alone. When Raphael was born, you were too busy to be there. And when Matthias came along, you were already gone. And now you show up, thinking you can fix everything with a few nice words. Each of Luna's statements was like a blow. Gabriel felt his face heat up, but he knew he couldn't react. He needed to listen to her. You're right, he admitted, his voice lower. I wasn't there. I didn't do what I should have. But I don't want to run away from this. I want to be part of their lives now. Luna stared at him, her brown eyes shining with intensity. Part of their lives. Gabriel, you don't even know who they are. Raphael is as stubborn as a mule, but he has the most generous heart you've ever seen. Matthias is sensitive, but is afraid to open up because he thinks he'll get hurt. And do you know why? Because their father disappeared. Gabriel swallowed hard. He knew that nothing he said could erase what Luna and the boys had gone through, but he had to try. Luna, I know it's hard to believe in me right now, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild their trust, and yours, if you let me. Luna uncrossed her arms but kept her hands on the table. She leaned slightly forward, as if she wanted to make sure he heard every word. Rebuilding trust. Gabriel, that doesn't happen overnight, and honestly, I don't know if I'm willing to let you get close to the boys. They need stability, and you are an unstable variable. Gabriel felt the weight of those words. Luna wasn't wrong. He knew that for years. His life had been driven by impulsive decisions and misplaced priorities. I understand what you're saying, he replied, trying to stay calm, but I'm not going to give up. I won't give up on them. Luna pressed her lips together, clearly uncomfortable with his determination. She leaned back in her chair, as if she needed more space to process what she was hearing. And what do you expect me to do? Just tell the boys, your dad is back. Let's pretend he never left us. No, Gabriel said, shaking his head. I don't expect anything from you, Luna. I'm not here to ask you for a favor. I just want a chance to prove that I can be a father to them. There was a long silence. Luna looked away, focusing on the table as she lightly tapped her nails on the wood. It was evident that she was struggling with herself, trying to find an answer to how she felt. They already have a routine, she finally said. A life. You showing up now will mess everything up. Maybe it will mess things up, Gabriel replied, with a firmer tone. But I think it's worth it. They deserve to know that I'm here, that they have a father who cares. Luna lifted her gaze to him, and for the first time, Gabriel saw something different. It wasn't anger or frustration, but a shadow of doubt. Are you sure about this, Gabriel? Because if you start down this path and give up halfway, it will be worse than never trying at all. I am sure, he answered without hesitation. No matter how long it takes or how much I have to do, I will fight for them. Luna sighed and ran her hand through her hair, a gesture Gabriel remembered well. She seemed to be weighing her options, considering the risks. All right, she finally said, with a reluctant tone. I will let you meet them. But it will be on my time and on my terms. Gabriel felt a wave of relief, but he didn't let it show. He knew that this was just the beginning, and that Luna was still far from trusting him. Thank you, he said simply. Luna picked up her bag and stood up, looking at him one last time before leaving. Don't make me regret this, Gabriel. He sat there for a few minutes after she left, feeling the weight of the moment. He knew the road would be long, but for the first time in years, he felt that there was a path to follow. Gabriel spent the following days preparing for the first real meeting with the boys. Luna had made it clear that it would be something simple and supervised, with little room for mistakes. If you want to be part of their lives, you'll have to earn that little by little. Don't expect a warm welcome, she had said during a brief call. The meeting was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon at the park near Luna's house. Gabriel arrived early, parking his car in a discreet corner. He wore casual clothes, dark jeans and a light blue shirt, in an attempt to appear more approachable. He paced back and forth near the park entrance, taking deep breaths and trying to contain his nerves. The place was peaceful, with tall trees casting comfortable shadows over the wooden benches scattered across the lawn. The smell of freshly cut grass mingled with the sound of children playing on swings and slides. The park seemed alive, but for Gabriel, each second spent alone there felt like a silent judgment. When he saw Luna approaching in the distance, he straightened his posture automatically. She was walking with the boys beside her, and Gabriel felt a pang of anxiety as he noticed that Raphael had his arms crossed, and Matthias seemed glued to his mother's leg. Luna was wearing a black t-shirt and simple jeans, but her expression showed that she was in control. Unlike Gabriel, who appeared tense, she walked with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Ready? Luna asked the boys, but her gaze fell on Gabriel, as if she were measuring every move he made. Matthias looked at Gabriel with curiosity, while Raphael, who was holding a soccer ball, seemed more interested in kicking something than talking. Gabriel tried to smile, but felt the gesture came off more hesitantly than he intended. "Hi, guys," he said, his voice sounding surprisingly calm. Raphael lifted his chin, his dark eyes narrowing with an expression Gabriel recognized as pure distrust. "Are you really our dad?" Raphael asked directly, without beating around the bush. The question, while predictable, made Gabriel hesitate for a moment. He took a deep breath before responding. "Yes, Raphael, I am." Raphael remained silent for a few seconds, analyzing Gabriel as if trying to find some obvious flaw in his response. "You seem different from what I imagined," Raphael finally said, with a somewhat challenging tone. "And how did you imagine me?" Gabriel asked, leaning slightly toward him, trying to break the barrier. "I don't know," Raphael shrugged. "I just thought you'd be different." Gabriel didn't know if that was good or bad, but decided not to press it. He knew that time would speak more than any words. Meanwhile, Matthias, quieter, was looking at Gabriel with a mix of curiosity and shyness. He was wearing a dinosaur shirt and shorts, holding a small plastic car in his hands. Gabriel smiled at him. "That's a cool car. Do you like to play with them?" Gabriel asked, trying to start a conversation. Matthias nodded affirmatively, but didn't respond. He looked at Luna as if asking for permission to speak. Luna, who was sitting on a nearby bench, watched everything closely but didn't intervene. She seemed to be letting the boys handle the situation in their own way. "Why did you leave?" Raphael interrupted, this time with more intensity in his voice. Gabriel felt an instant weight fall on him. It was a fair question, but there was no answer he found sufficient. He knelt down to be at Raphael's eye level and looked into his eyes. "I made a big mistake," Gabriel said, his voice firm but filled with regret. "I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was wrong. I'm sorry for not being here for you." Raphael frowned, his expression still cautious. "That's not fair," he said, with an honesty that made Gabriel's heart ache. "You can't just leave and then show up later." "I know it's not fair," Gabriel replied sincerely, "and I don't expect you to forgive me now, but I want to try. I want to be here for you." Raphael didn't respond immediately. He threw the ball on the ground and started to kick it lightly, seeming lost in thought. Gabriel looked at Matthias, who was still clutching the car. "What do you like to do, Matthias?" Gabriel asked, trying to pull the conversation again. Matthias glanced at him but said nothing. Raphael, on the other hand, answered for him. "He likes to draw," Raphael said casually. "Dinosaurs and stuff like that." "Dinosaurs, yeah, huh?" Gabriel smiled. "When I was a kid, my favorite was the Tyrannosaurus Rex." Matthias looked up quickly, as if the mention of the dinosaur had triggered something within him. "Mine too," he said, his voice sounding enthusiastic for the first time. Luna, from the bench, raised an eyebrow slightly surprised. Gabriel caught her gaze and felt a flicker of relief. It was a small step, but still progress. "Did you know that the Tyrannosaurus had teeth the size of bananas?" Gabriel continued, feigning excitement. Matthias giggled and shook his head. Luna started softly. "I think that was enough for today." Gabriel nodded, understanding that pushing for more time could be counterproductive. He stood up, dusting off his hands, and looked at Raphael and Matthias. "It was good to see you," he said. "I hope we can meet again." Raphael didn't respond, but Matthias nodded with a slight smile before returning to his mother's side. As they walked away, Gabriel stood still for a moment, watching the small family. He knew this was just the beginning of a long journey. The following weeks were a mix of small advances and moments of frustration for Gabriel. Luna kept her word, allowing him to see the boys, but always in supervised meetings. The interactions took place in the park, at her house, or in public places, and never lasted more than 2 hours. Each meeting felt like walking a tightrope, and Gabriel knew that a slip could cost him everything. He was determined to build a bridge with Raphael and Matthias, but he quickly realized that each of them had their own pace. Matthias was more receptive, though shy. A conversation about dinosaurs or cars was enough to loosen him up a bit. Raphael, however, remained resistant. It was difficult to break through the wall of distrust the boy had built around himself. During one of these meetings, Gabriel decided to bring a notebook and a set of colored pencils for Matthias. They were sitting at a picnic table in the park, with Luna a few meters away, watching closely as she read a book. "I thought you might like this," Gabriel said, handing the notebook to Matthias. The boy's eyes lit up when he opened the notebook and saw the blank pages, ready to be filled with drawings. "Can I draw now?" he asked, with a shy smile. "Of course," Gabriel replied, feeling warmth in his chest at Matthias's enthusiasm. As Matthias began to draw, Gabriel looked at Raphael, who was kicking a ball alone on the grass. He knew he needed to try again. "Raphael, do you want to play a little?" Gabriel called. The boy stopped, holding the ball with his foot but didn't look at him right away. After a few seconds, he shrugged. "Whatever," he replied, with a rehearsed indifference. Gabriel stood up and walked over to him, creating some distance to start a simple passing game. Raphael kicked the ball hard, almost as if he wanted to hit Gabriel, but he managed to stop the kick and returned the ball with a controlled pass. "You play well," Gabriel said, trying to start a conversation. "I play on the school team," Raphael replied, with a hint of pride. "Really? What's your position?" "Forward," Raphael said, kicking the ball again, this time with less force. "It must be nice to score goals. I played in school too, but I was a goalkeeper." Raphael paused for a moment, looking surprised. "A goalkeeper? Were you good?" Gabriel smiled, recognizing the opening that was appearing. "I would say I was decent, but I think you would give me a run for my money." Raphael laughed, almost involuntarily. It was a short sound, but for Gabriel, it was like a ray of sunshine after days of clouds. The two continued playing for a few minutes, and Gabriel felt that, for the first time, Raphael was lowering his guard. Meanwhile, Matthias was proudly showing his drawing to Luna, who smiled and kissed the top of his head. Gabriel watched the scene from a distance, feeling a pang of envy, but also a renewed admiration for Luna. After a while, Raphael kicked the ball back to Gabriel and crossed his arms. "Why do you want to be here now?" The question caught him off guard. Gabriel knew Raphael's resistance hadn't disappeared, but he didn't expect him to be so direct. "Because I realized I was wrong," Gabriel said, his voice calm. "I realized that nothing I achieved means anything without you guys." Raphael frowned, clearly unconvinced. "That doesn't make sense. You left us, and now you want to come back, as if it were easy." "I know it's not easy," Gabriel replied, taking a step toward the boy. "And I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just want the chance to show that I can be different." Raphael looked at him, his eyes shining with a mix of anger and something else. Perhaps hurt, perhaps hope. He didn't say anything, just picked up the ball and resumed kicking it on the grass. Gabriel sighed and returned to the picnic table, where Matthias was proudly showing another drawing to Luna. She looked at Gabriel with an expression that seemed to say, "I warned you." When the meeting ended, Luna waited for the boys to walk away to the car before turning to Gabriel. "You're trying, and I can see that," she said in a neutral tone. "But don't think that 1 or 2 soccer games will change how they feel, especially Raphael." Gabriel nodded, absorbing her words. "I know it will take time," he said, "but I'm not going to give up." Luna studied him for a moment, as if searching for any contradiction in his words. "I hope you're serious, Gabriel. Because if you hurt those boys again, I will never forgive you." He felt the weight of that statement like an anchor pulling him down, but at the same time, it was a reminder of what was at stake. The relationship between Gabriel and the boys was progressing slowly, as if he were building a house with his own hands, brick by brick. However, he knew that the biggest barrier was not the children, but Luna. She was the fortress protecting Raphael and Matthias from any emotional threat, and Gabriel was undoubtedly the biggest of them. The interactions between him and Luna were cordial, but always laden with tension. Gabriel could feel it in every look she cast, in every prolonged pause before a response. Luna didn't trust him, and he knew she was right. But in order to be accepted by the children, Gabriel needed to show Luna that his change was genuine. One afternoon after a meeting in the park, Luna asked him to accompany her to the local cafe. Gabriel felt a wave of anxiety. He knew she wanted to talk. The boys went to the table next door with 2 cups of hot chocolate. While Luna and Gabriel sat at a small, secluded table, Luna didn't waste any time. "Gabriel, we need to make one thing clear," she began, placing her hands on the table. "I still don't trust you." Gabriel looked at her, feeling the impact of her words, but knowing they were deserved. I understand, he replied, keeping his voice steady, and I know it will take time to change that. Luna leaned forward, her gaze fixed on Gabriel's eyes. It's not just about me. It's about the boys. Do you see how Raphael looks at you? He wants to believe you're going to stay, but he's terrified you'll leave again. And Mateus. She hesitated, taking a deep breath. He's more sensitive than you think. He won't say it, but he feels everything deeply. Gabriel nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I'm not going anywhere, Luna, he said, with more conviction than he had felt in a long time. Words are easy. Luna shot back, her tone sharper now. I need to see actions. I need to know that you are really committed to them. Gabriel hesitated for a moment, trying to find the right words. What do you want me to do? He finally asked. Luna leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. I want you to be present, Gabriel. Not just for the scheduled meetings we have, but truly. I want you to know their schedules, to know what they like, what worries them. I want you to understand what it means to be a father, because this isn't something you can just decide to do when it's convenient. Gabriel took a deep breath. Her words were hard to hear, but he knew they were true. I'm willing to learn, he said sincerely. I just need you to give me the chance to do that. Luna was silent for a few seconds, studying Gabriel. Finally, she sighed and pulled a small notebook from her bag. Here are their schedules, she said, sliding the notebook across the table. School, soccer practice, medical appointments. If you want to be part of their lives, then start showing up where it matters. Gabriel took the notebook, feeling a mix of surprise and gratitude. Thank you, he said, looking directly at Luna. She shrugged, but there was a softness in her expression that he hadn't seen before. Don't thank me yet. Prove that you deserve this. Gabriel began to follow Raphael and Mateus's schedules as if they were an instruction manual for a new project. He showed up at their school to pick up Raphael after soccer practice, and Mateus smiled shyly when he saw him waiting outside the art classroom. One day, while watching Raphael's soccer game, Gabriel noticed how skilled his son was. Raphael ran across the field with determination, commanding the team with a confidence that surprised Gabriel. When Raphael scored a goal, Gabriel shouted in excitement, catching Luna's attention, who was sitting a few rows down in the bleachers. After the game, while the boys changed, Luna approached him. You looked excited, she said with a slight smile. He's amazing, Gabriel replied, still smiling. It's like he was born for this. Luna crossed her arms, but her posture was less rigid than usual. Raphael loves soccer. He's always liked it. You should have seen him when he scored his first goal at 5 years old. Gabriel felt a pang in his chest, realizing everything he had missed. I wish I had been there, he said, his voice softer. Luna looked at him for a moment, then looked away. Well, you weren't. But you can be now. Those words, although simple, were a small step in the right direction. Later that same day, Gabriel had a more direct conversation with Raphael. The boy seemed less closed off after the game, and Gabriel seized the opportunity to talk to him as they walked to the car. You played really well today, Gabriel said, trying to sound casual. Thanks, Raphael replied, kicking a pebble along the path. Can I ask you something? Raphael looked at him sideways but didn't say anything, waiting for the question. What do you think about me being here now? Gabriel asked cautiously. Raphael stopped walking and fell silent for a few seconds, looking at the ground. I don't know, he finally said. It's strange. Gabriel nodded, respecting his son's feelings. I understand. It must be hard to trust me after everything. Raphael looked up, his eyes shining with a mix of confusion and hurt. It is hard, because I don't know if you're going to stay, and I don't want to get used to you just for you to leave again. The boy's words hit Gabriel like a punch. He knelt in front of Raphael so he could look him in the eye. Raphael, I know I can't change the past, but I want you to know that I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Raphael furrowed his brow, still skeptical, but gave a small nod before continuing to walk. Gabriel knew there was still a long way to go, but that moment, however small, was a step in the right direction. Gabriel's relationship with the boys was strengthening, although there were still ups and downs. He continued to follow their schedules and participate in their activities, But he knew that time alone with Raphael and Mateus wouldn't be enough. Luna was still the key to fully understanding her children, and Gabriel was beginning to realize that in order to gain her trust, he would have to confront the ghosts of the past, both hers and his. One night, while he waited for Raphael in the school parking lot after practice, Luna arrived driving the old SUV he knew she had been using for years. The car stopped next to his, and Luna rolled down the window. "Do you have time?" she asked, her tone casual but with a subtext Gabriel couldn't ignore. "Always," he replied, feeling a strange nervousness. "Meet me at the cafe on the corner after practice," she said, not waiting for a response before heading to the field. Gabriel knew she was planning something. Maybe it was going to be a definitive conversation, or perhaps she wanted to set the record straight. He wasn't sure, but he decided he was ready to listen, no matter what was said. When Gabriel arrived at the cafe, Luna was already sitting at a table in the back, a cup of tea in her hands. She wore a cream sweater that looked comfortable, but her posture was as straight as an arrow. Gabriel ordered a coffee and approached, sitting down across from her without much ceremony. "Did something happen?" he asked cautiously. Luna shook her head, but there was something in her eyes that indicated a weariness beyond the physical. "No, but I think it's time we have a more serious conversation." Gabriel remained silent, allowing her to take the lead. Luna stirred her tea, swirling it for a moment before beginning. "When you left me," she started, her voice lower than usual, "I was alone, scared, and holding a baby. Raphael was just a newborn, and I didn't know how I would take care of him." Gabriel felt a tightening in his chest, but he said nothing. "You said you needed to go, that it was for the good of all of us, that you were building something better. And I believed you. I thought you would come back, that you would realize that family was more important than work." She paused, looking at the table as if the words were difficult to say. "But you didn't come back, Gabriel. With each passing month, I felt you drifting further away, and I had to pretend to be strong for Raphael." Gabriel tried to interject, but Luna raised her hand, indicating that she wasn't finished yet. "And then Mateus came. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought I was going to crumble. How was I going to take care of 2 children alone? But you know what kept me going?" Gabriel shook his head, feeling the weight of the moment. "Them. Raphael and Mateus gave me a reason to keep going. They made me realize that I didn't need you, that I could be strong enough for the 3 of us." Her words felt like knives, but Gabriel knew he deserved every one of them. "Luna, I don't know what to say. I can't justify what I did." "I don't want your justifications," she interrupted, her voice firmer now. "I just want you to understand, because as much as the boys may eventually accept you, I will never forget what happened." Gabriel felt the weight of that statement like a final sentence, but at the same time, he realized something he hadn't understood before. "I know I can't change the past," he finally said, "but I want you to know that I admire you for everything you've done. You are stronger than I've ever been." Luna blinked, surprised by his words. For a brief moment, something in her expression softened, but it was soon replaced by the same defensive posture as before. "That doesn't change anything," she said, getting up. "But at least now you know." She left some bills on the table to pay for her tea, and walked out before Gabriel could say anything else. He sat there, processing what he had heard. After that conversation, Gabriel found himself more determined than ever to be a constant presence in Raphael and Mateus's lives. He knew he still had much to prove to Luna, but he decided that his main focus should be on the boys. One day, he invited Raphael to a soccer game at a nearby field. It was a chilly afternoon, and the sun was starting to hide behind the trees. Raphael seemed more relaxed than usual, kicking the ball hard while Gabriel tried to keep up with him. "You're getting better," Raphael commented, a slight smile on his face. "Getting better. I think I'm winning," Gabriel joked, trying to steal the ball. Raphael laughed, the sound echoing through the empty field. It was a genuine laugh, something Gabriel didn't hear often. After some time, they both sat down on the edge of the field to rest. Raphael took a sip of water before looking at Gabriel. "Do you regret it?" he asked suddenly. Gabriel furrowed his brow. "Regret what?" "Leaving," Raphael replied, his tone more serious now. Gabriel was silent for a moment, thinking about his answer. "Every day," he finally said. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about what I lost. Raphael watched Gabriel for a few seconds before nodding. Okay. I just wanted to know. It was a small moment, but for Gabriel, it was a huge breakthrough. In the meantime, Gabriel was also working to connect with Matthias. The boy was still reserved, but Gabriel began to notice small signs of trust. During one visit at home, Matthias brought one of his drawings to show Gabriel. It's a T-Rex, he said shyly. Gabriel took the drawing carefully, as if it were something precious. It's amazing. Look at those teeth. I bet he scares everyone. Matthias smiled but quickly looked away. Do you think I'm good at this? He asked quietly. I think you're great, Gabriel replied with conviction. You have an incredible talent, Matthias. The boy gave a shy smile before returning to the couch, but Gabriel knew that moment meant much more than it seemed. The following months were an emotional roller coaster for Gabriel. He had made significant progress with Matthias, who was now showing himself to be more open and comfortable in Gabriel's presence. Raphael, however, continued to be a challenge. Despite some moments of ease, the boy still displayed distrust. But the biggest obstacle remained Luna. No matter how much she allowed Gabriel to be with the children, he knew her resistance went beyond concern for the boys. She still carried deep wounds. It was a sunny Sunday when everything came to a head. Gabriel had been invited, after much hesitation on Luna's part, to a lunch at her house. It wasn't exactly a family gathering. It felt more like a test. The house was simple but cozy, with light-colored walls and wooden furniture that seemed to have stories to tell. The smell of home-cooked food filled the air as Matthias and Raphael played in the backyard. Gabriel felt uncomfortable, as if he were in unfamiliar territory, but he tried to hide it. You can grab the plates in the kitchen if you want to help, Luna said, not looking directly at him as she set the table. Gabriel nodded and headed to the kitchen. The space was small but tidy, with potted plants scattered across the counter. He picked up the plates and returned to the dining room, where he began to set them on the table. Luna, who was arranging the cutlery, paused for a moment and looked at him. You seem nervous, she commented, her tone bordering on sarcasm. Maybe a little, Gabriel admitted, trying to smile. Well, that's good, she said, returning to her task. It shows you know what's at stake. The phrase Endo said casually hit Gabriel hard. He knew Luna wasn't going to let up. The lunch started off quietly. Matthias was excited, talking about a new drawing he had made, while Raphael remained quieter, poking at his food with his fork. Gabriel tried to include Raphael in the conversation, but the boy seemed reluctant to engage. In the middle of the meal, Raphael finally broke the silence, but his words came like a storm. Why are you here? He asked, his voice cutting through the air. The atmosphere at the table changed instantly. Matthias stopped talking and looked at his brother with wide eyes, while Luna sighed and placed her fork on the table. Raphael, this isn't the time for that, she said, her tone warning. No, Mom, I want to know. He disappeared for years and now acts like nothing happened. Gabriel took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. Raphael, I know you're angry with me, and you have every right to be. It's not just that, the boy continued, his eyes shining with anger. You left us. You left Mom to handle everything alone, and now you show up and expect us to accept you. Raphael, Luna intervened, her voice firmer now. Gabriel raised his hand, indicating that she should let the boy speak. He knew Raphael needed to get everything out. You're right, Gabriel said, looking directly at Raphael. I left you. I made the worst mistake of my life. And I know nothing I do will erase that. Raphael stared at him, his breathing heavy, but he didn't say anything. Gabriel continued. I can't change what happened, but I'm here now because I want to be part of your lives. I want to be the father you deserve. The silence that followed was tense, but something in Raphael's posture seemed to relax slightly. He looked at Matthias, who was clearly uncomfortable, before turning back to Gabriel. Just don't hurt me again, Raphael said, his voice low and carrying more pain than anger. I promise I won't, Gabriel replied, his voice steady. Luna watched everything with her arms crossed and an unreadable expression. It was as if she were assessing Gabriel, searching for any sign of insincerity. After lunch, while the boys played in the backyard, Luna called Gabriel for a talk in the living room. She was serious, but she didn't seem angry. You handled Raphael well today, she began, sitting down on the couch. He needed to vent, Gabriel replied, taking a seat in the armchair across from her. And he's right to feel all of that. Luna crossed her legs and looked at him intently. You have to understand that this isn't going to be easy, Gabriel. Raphael might have lowered his guard a bit, but he still has doubts. I still have doubts. Gabriel nodded. I know it will take time, Luna. I don't expect everything to change overnight. She sighed, resting her elbow on the arm of the couch and holding her head in her hand. I see that you're trying, but sometimes I wonder if it will last. You have a different life than ours, Gabriel, and I don't want the boys to build up expectations only to be disappointed again. Gabriel leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Luna, I won't give up on them. And I won't give up on you. She looked up, clearly taken aback. This isn't about me, she replied, shaking her head. Maybe not right now, Gabriel said, his tone softer. But I still care about you, Luna. I always have. The silence that followed was filled with unspoken emotions. Luna looked away, as if trying to process his words, and Gabriel knew that this battle was far from over. Later, as Gabriel prepared to leave, Matthias appeared holding his drawing notebook. Daddy, can you take this drawing? He asked, holding out a sheet with a detailed Tyrannosaurus. Gabriel was speechless for a moment. It was the first time Matthias had called him Daddy. He took the drawing carefully, as if it were the most precious item in the world. Of course I can, he replied, with a genuine smile. Raphael, who was next to him, looked at Matthias and then at Gabriel. Good evening, Raphael simply said before leaving. It was a small farewell, but for Gabriel, it meant a lot. As he walked to the car, Gabriel looked at the paper in his hands and felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He knew there was still a long way to go, but at that moment, he realized he was closer to his family than he had ever been before. Time began to pass differently for Gabriel. Days that were once filled with meetings and contracts now revolved around school commitments, soccer practices, and afternoons spent drawing dinosaurs. He noticed that his connection with Raphael and Matthias was strengthening, even though there were still moments of tension. But what really kept him on edge was Luna. Although she continued to allow his presence, there was an emotional barrier between them. Gabriel knew he couldn't force her to trust him, but he also knew he needed more than reluctant acceptance to build something solid. One night, while Gabriel was reviewing some documents at home, his phone vibrated. He looked at the screen and saw Luna's name. It was unusual for her to call, and that immediately put him on alert. Luna, is everything okay? He asked when he answered. Yes, the boys are fine, she quickly replied. But I need to talk to you. Can you come here? Gabriel looked at the clock. It was already past 8 in the evening, but he knew that if Luna was asking, it was important. Of course, I'm on my way. When he arrived at her house, the atmosphere felt different. Luna welcomed him at the door, wearing a gray sweatshirt and an expression that seemed to be a mix of concern and exhaustion. What happened? Gabriel asked as he entered the living room. Luna gestured toward the sofa. Sit down. Gabriel obeyed, sensing the tension in the air. Today, Raphael got into a fight at school, she began, crossing her arms as she spoke. A boy said something about you, and he lost his temper. What did he say? Gabriel asked, worried. Something about you not being a real dad because you were never around, Luna replied, with a tone of bitterness. Raphael didn't want to tell me everything, but it was clear he's carrying a lot more than he should. Gabriel ran a hand over his face, feeling a mix of guilt and helplessness. What do I do, Luna? How do I help him through this? Luna sighed and sat in the armchair across from him. You need to be consistent, Gabriel. He still doesn't fully trust you, and things like this will only get worse if he feels alone. Gabriel nodded, absorbing her words. I'll talk to him, he said, determined. Luna looked at him as if trying to gauge his resolve. I hope you do it the right way. Raphael is stronger than he seems, but he's had to grow up too fast. Gabriel felt the weight of her words, but he also realized that despite her harsh tone, there was a glimpse of genuine concern from Luna. The next morning, Gabriel decided to pick up Raphael from school for a talk. He found him exiting the building, with his backpack slung over one shoulder and a closed-off expression. Hey, champ, Gabriel said, trying to sound casual. Want to take a walk? Raphael looked at him suspiciously but said nothing. He just shrugged and headed toward the car. They drove in silence to the park where they used to play soccer. Gabriel parked and suggested they walk a bit. Raphael agreed, still not saying much. Your mom told me what happened yesterday, Gabriel began, finally breaking the silence. Raphael stopped walking and looked at him, clearly uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about it. It's okay, Gabriel said in an understanding tone, but I want you to know I'm here to listen whenever you want. Raphael sighed and kicked a stone on the path. That kid is an idiot, he finally said, but he wasn't completely wrong, right? You weren't there. Gabriel felt a lump in his throat but knew he had to be honest. I wasn't, and that's my fault. But I'm here now, Raphael, and I'll be here whenever you need me. Raphael looked at him, his eyes shining with a mix of hurt and hope. Do you promise? He asked. I promise, Gabriel replied, without hesitation. Raphael was silent for a few seconds before finally giving a slight nod. Okay. It was a small victory, but significant. A few weeks later, while Gabriel was helping Matthias put together a puzzle, Luna appeared in the living room with a serious expression. Can we talk? She asked. Gabriel looked at Matthias, who seemed focused, and then nodded, following Luna to the kitchen. She leaned against the sink, crossing her arms, while Gabriel waited for her to start. I've been thinking, she said, in a hesitant tone. Maybe it's time for you to have more time alone with the boys. Gabriel was surprised but tried not to show it. Are you sure? Luna nodded, but her expression indicated that this wasn't an easy decision. Yes. I think it could be good for them. Gabriel felt a wave of relief and gratitude. Thank you, Luna. I promise I'll do this the right way. She didn't respond immediately but finally gave a small smile. I hope so. Over time, Gabriel began to spend more time alone with Raphael and Matthias. They went to the movies, played soccer, and even spent an entire day at the Natural History Museum, where Matthias was enchanted by the dinosaur replicas. Raphael still had moments of resistance, but Gabriel felt that the barrier was finally beginning to give way. Luna, for her part, began to observe Gabriel with a different look. Although there was still hurt, she could not ignore his genuine effort. On a quiet night, as Gabriel was putting the boys to sleep, Luna found him in the living room. They like you, she said simply. Gabriel smiled, feeling his heart warm. I like them too. More than anything. Luna was silent for a moment before sighing. Let's see where this takes us. It was a start, and Gabriel knew he still had a long way to go. But for the first time, he felt like he was truly rebuilding his family. The past year had been a journey of learning, patience, and growth for Gabriel. He not only discovered what it meant to be a father but also confronted parts of himself he preferred to ignore. Matthias, with his creativity and sensitivity, taught Gabriel to cherish simple moments and small gestures. Raphael, with his strength and resilience, challenged Gabriel to become a better man. And Luna taught him that true love was not just a feeling, but a series of difficult choices made day after day. It was a quiet Saturday when Luna suggested that Gabriel spend the whole day with the boys. She needed to take care of some things and trusted that he could handle the responsibility. For Gabriel, this was more than an invitation. It was proof that Luna was finally starting to believe in him. Gabriel decided to do something special. He planned a little trip to a natural park on the outskirts of the city, a place where Raphael and Matthias could explore, play, and above all, create memories. As they drove, Matthias excitedly talked about the animals he hoped to see, while Raphael listened with a subtle smile. The older boy seemed more at ease now, less inclined to hide his emotions. Gabriel felt a warmth in his chest as he realized how the dynamic between them had changed. At the park, they walked along trails, played by a stream, and even had a small picnic under a huge tree. Matthias chased butterflies while Raphael tried to build a small dam with stones in the stream. Gabriel watched them, feeling more complete than he had ever felt in his life. By the end of the afternoon, as the sun began to set, they sat together in a clearing, watching the golden hues in the sky. This was fun, Raphael said, looking at Gabriel. It was a lot of fun, Matthias agreed, resting his head on his father's shoulder. Gabriel felt his eyes welling up, but he maintained his composure. You know, you are the best things that have ever happened to me, he said sincerely. I'm sorry I didn't realize that sooner. Raphael looked at him for a long moment before finally saying, It's okay, Dad. You're here now. And for the first time, Gabriel felt like he had truly earned the title of father. When they returned home, Luna was waiting at the door, with a curious expression and a gentle smile. Matthias ran to her, showing her a drawing he had made of a bird he saw in the park, while Raphael walked more slowly but with a sparkle in his eyes. Looks like they had fun, Luna said as Gabriel approached. It was an amazing day, he replied, still emotional. Luna smiled, but there was something more in her gaze. Want some coffee? She asked, as if it were no big deal. Gabriel accepted, and the two sat on the porch while the boys rushed inside. You know, Gabriel, I was wrong, Luna began, stirring her coffee with a spoon. Wrong about what? About you, she said, looking directly at him. I thought you would give up, that you wouldn't be able to handle the weight of all this. But you stayed. You changed. Gabriel was silent for a moment, processing her words. I changed because you all are important to me, he said sincerely. And I will never stop trying to prove that. Luna smiled. But this time there was something more in her expression, a softness he hadn't seen in years. I think I can finally believe in you, she said, almost as a whisper. Those words were all Gabriel needed to hear. The months that followed were a period of rebuilding and strengthening. Gabriel remained present, participating in every important moment in the boys' lives. He and Luna began to grow closer in a more organic way, rediscovering what had united them in the past. One summer afternoon, while they were having a barbecue in the backyard, Raphael, Matthias, and Luna joined Gabriel for a photo. It was the first time in years that they felt like a true family. As he looked at the image on his phone, Gabriel realized how much his life had changed. He was no longer the man obsessed with success and status. Now he was a father, a partner, and someone who understood the true meaning of happiness. At the end of the day, as the sun was setting, Gabriel sat on the porch with Luna, watching the boys play. He held her hand, and this time, she didn't pull away. I think we finally made it, he said, looking at her with a smile. Luna looked at the children, and then at Gabriel, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Yes, we did. And in that moment, Gabriel knew he had found his place in the world. What moment moved you the most or made you reflect in this story? Share with us in the comments. We really want to hear your opinion. Your participation is essential and helps bring more inspiring and emotional stories. And how about sharing this video with someone who will also connect with this powerful message of new beginnings and hope? Let's spread narratives that touch the heart together. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to be the first to check out our upcoming content. Your interaction makes all the difference in helping these stories reach more people. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next amazing story.